Algorithm will be used to identify the maximum value in a list of one or more integers. Consider the two versions of the algorithm below. Which of the following statements best applies to the behavior of the two algorithms? So let's look at these two algorithms. Algorithm 1 says set the value of a variable max to -1, iterate through the list of integer values. If the data value is greater than the value of the variable max, set max to the data value. So what this does is, say we have some list of integers, so like -3, 4, 7, 1, 2. So this is our list of integers. And we're going to have a variable max, which we're initially going to set equal to -1. And we're going to iterate through the list of integers and check whether the integer we're looking at is greater than the value of max. If the integer we're looking at is greater than max, then we set max equal to that new integer. This will be our new maximum. And we do that one by one through every element until we get through every element. And the value left in max will be our maximum number of the list of integers. So say we have this list of integers, we set max equal to -1 initially, and then start iterating through all the integer values. So we look at the first integer value. -3 is not greater than -1, so we don't change max. Then we move on to the next. 4 is greater than -1, so that means instead of -1, we're gonna replace our max. So we're gonna replace our max, and instead our new max is gonna be 4, because 4 is greater than -1. Then we can move on to the next number, 7. So 7 is greater than 4. So that means 7 is going to become our new max instead of 4. And then we can move on to the next number. 1 is not greater than 7. So that means our max stays the same. We're not going to change it. And then our last number is 2. 2 is not greater than max because 2 is less than 7. So that means 7 will remain our max. And since we've iterated through every element, every number, integer in this list, that means this algorithm 1 here is going to return max equals 7. Now, there is a problem with this algorithm because initially we're setting the variable max equal to -1. But the problem is if we have a list of integers, say -3, -5, -2, this is our list of integers and we want to find the maximum number, the largest number. If we're setting max equal to -1 in the beginning, whenever we start this algorithm, problem is -1 is greater than any of these numbers. So if we were to go through this list, -3 is less than -1, so max stays the same. -5 is less than -1, so max stays the same. And -2 is less than -1, so max stays the same. So that means algorithm 1 would return -1 as the maximum. But the problem is -1 is not in this list. So setting max equal to -1 is going to result in some bugs in our code when the maximum, when all the numbers in the list are smaller than -1. So in those cases, this algorithm won't work. So algorithm 1 only works when the maximum number in the list is greater than or equal to -1, because that will result in max changing, or in the case that the maximum is -1, this algorithm will still return just -1. So algorithm 1 has some bugs, so it's not going to work correctly every time. Let's look at algorithm 2. Algorithm 2 says set the value of variable max to the first data value. Iterate through the remaining values in the list of integers. If a data value is greater than the value of the variable max, set max to the data value. So algorithm 2 is the same as algorithm 1, except the only change is that instead of setting max equal to -1 in the beginning, we're going to be setting max equal to the first data value. So imagine we have this case again in using this list of integers. Algorithm 1 produced incorrect results, but algorithm 2 will work as intended because instead of initializing max to -1, it's going to initialize it to the first data value. And the first data value here is -3. So now when max is -3 and we start at the first data value, -3 is not greater than -3, so max stays the same. -5 is not greater than -3, so max stays the same. And -2 is negative and -2 is greater than -3, so that means we get rid of this old maximum and replace it with our new maximum, -2. Since we're starting max off at a value that is actually in the data set, and we're still checking through every number in the list to find the maximum every time, then this means that no matter what, algorithm 2 will always return a number that is in the list, unlike algorithm 1, which can return numbers like -1 that aren't in the list. So that means both algorithms will not work on all inputs. Algorithm 1 does not always work correctly. Algorithm 2 always works correctly. But algorithm 1 only works when correctly when the maximum value is greater than or equal to -1. Yes, that's correct. And neither algorithm will correctly identify the maximum value. And this is incorrect because for both positive and negative input values, algorithm 2 always returns the correct maximum value. So C is correct. Algorithm 2 always works, but algorithm 1 does not work in all cases.